This is Chef Fox, Chef You Make Chef Paints for Piehole Productions, and today we're going to make chocolate chip cookies, but not just any chocolate chip cookies, mind you. Chocolate chunk cookies that are similar to, but legally distinct from, Jack Jack's Cookie Num Nums that you can get at the Disney resorts. So this is a good solid chocolate chip cookie. We're going to actually cook it in a baking cup, similar to a cupcake cup, but wider and shorter, so like cookie shaped. And we're going to decorate the top with more chocolate chunks because that's what we do. So a little quick kitchen math. A stick of butter is half a cup. My recipe calls for 1 1/3 cups of butter, so I have half plus a half is 1 cup, and I've cut that here at the 1/3 cup mark. They're very handy to use. They're not 100% accurate because not all the wrappers get on precisely exactly the same way, but it's pretty good and it's close enough for making cookies. So we're going to start by putting the butter and the sugar in the mixer together. And this is an important step called creaming. There are several ways of making your baked goods rise. Yeast is one of them. Baking soda is one of them. Baking powder is one of them. We're going to talk about baking soda and baking powder in the pancake videos that are going to be coming up soon. But another way of making baked goods rise is called the mechanical process. So we are actually going to whip air into the butter, and whipping the sugar in with it will help the sugar dissolve and get spread evenly. When the cookie cooks, the butter will melt, and the egg that's whipped up in the whole thing will create a lattice inside the cookie, so the cookie will be fluffier, and it's because we're whipping air into the butter from the beginning. So I unwrap the butter and I put it in the mixer, and I'm going to start working it around. I'm going to put in equal parts 1 cup white sugar and 1 cup of brown sugar. Now, just as a quick reminder on brown sugar is measured packed, so don't just barely fluff it in. So I'm going to throw that in here. I'm going to get that started again. If your butter is clumping up a lot, you just need to go a little longer. If the butter gets stuck to the beater, go ahead and turn off your blender and use a scraper. Never try to scrape the sides with the blender going. A lot of experienced cooks will say that sometimes they cheat and do that, and if pressed, they'll also tell you stories of people they've seen get stuck in the blender, or get a tool stuck in the blender and have the blender throw the spatula across the room. I personally know a lady who was making cookies and got her hair stuck in the blender because she was leaning over it to scrape, and it did take part of her scalp off. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to clean this blender off, the beater off. Now, using softened but not melted butter is a little bit helpful at this stage. Melted butter, you can't whip air into that, and so it defeats the purpose of cleaning it. So now I'm going to start out with a ½ teaspoon of salt. Like I've mentioned on several of the videos, you don't think that sweet dishes need salt, but they certainly do, otherwise they taste kind of flat. Now I'm going to add baking soda. So there's a teaspoon of baking soda going in the recipe. Baking soda along with the air from the mechanical whipping, the creaming of the butter, together those will cause fluffy, nice cookies. Last of all, and we're going to talk more about baking soda in the pancake recipe. There's actually a chemical reaction that's going to happen here to create some bubbles, but talk more about that then. I'm going to go 2 teaspoons of vanilla, I'm going to make sure all the stuff gets really well mixed together, and then we'll add the flour. So now it's time to add the chocolate chunks and the flour. So I'm going to start off with a cup of flour. It takes 3. There's 1. 2. Now I'm going to save this last one. I'm going to raise this up, and I'm going to start it slowly so I don't create a big puff of flour that makes the kitchen super messy and I get myself into trouble. Probably should have started mixing after my first cup. There we go. So I don't want to over mix it now that I've added my flour. I don't want to get it all chewy like a good loaf of French bread. I want it to be nice and tender like a cookie, so I'm not going to develop those gluten bonds by over kneading here. Clean off the beater a little bit, make sure that everything that we threw in this mixing bowl here actually are in the cookie dough evenly. And I'll finish it off by beating it just a little bit more and then add the chocolate chips. So now it's time to add the chocolate chips, and we got chocolate chunk for this. So it'll be bigger pockets of chocolate in the cookie. So I'm going to add in 1 cup and part of the 2nd cup. The rest of these chocolate chips I'm going to save to put on top so they'll melt and make big chocolatey chunks on top of the cookie. Like I've mentioned before, I don't want to overmix this, but now the chocolate chunks are in. I don't see any dusts of flour on the sides or the bottom, so I think everything is mixed in pretty well. So I'm going to clean this beater off and clean the bowl out and show you what we've got. Now it's time to talk about a serious topic. Salmonella. Now, I know a lot of you like to lick the spoon, as they say. Remember, raw eggs is a way that you can get sick. Salmonella is a real thing. I don't have the facts 100% sure, but what I read said that about 1 in 10,000 eggs might be infected with salmonella. And at 2 eggs per batch of cookies, that means every 5,000 batches of cookies where somebody's eating the dough raw, somebody has a shot at getting sick. Might not happen to you, but it's happening to someone, and that's why we're talking about it. So I don't advise you to lick the spoon.
Yum, 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 yum.
So as funny as that was, it was obviously a setup. Eating raw or undercooked eggs is potentially a food hazard issue. So we're going to age the cookie dough for 48 hours, and then we're going to come back and cook in a couple of days here, and you'll see how gorgeous these cookies are. Now, for a link to the recipe and actually an article about the cookies, remember you can look on somewhereinparticular.com, and we'll put a link to that in the description. Chef Fox, Chefy McChef Pants for Piehole Productions, back 48 hours later. Not the same day, you can tell. I'm wearing different chef pants. Okay, so the cookie dough is aged. I've had it sitting on the counter for about 20 minutes, so it's starting to get warmed up, but we're not talking food safety issue yet. It'll just be a little easier to deal with if it's soft instead of hard. The Oven is preheated to 350. Now this recipe will cook for 15 to 17 minutes, which would be way too long for a normal size cookie, but these cookies are bigger than normal, and they're also cooked in a baking cup. Now, for those of you who don't know where to get baking cups, you can refer to the blog article on somewhereinparticular.com for details on where to get those. So I mentioned a second ago that these cookies are way bigger than normal. This is a scoop where people scoop out cookie dough, and that way they can get consistent size cookies. This is called a disher. This is not an ice cream scoop. Let's be professional here. It's a disher. But even the large size disher is not big enough for this recipe. We're actually going to use a 2/3 cup measure, highly technical, to get 2/3 of a cup. So I'm going to scoop it, fill it, pack it like it was brown sugar, and then put it in the cups. So I've got the dough. I'm packing it in. This doesn't have to be 100% precise. We're just looking to have the cookies the same size, plus or minus just a slight bit. Notice on the cookie sheet, I have this nice, bright, shining, clean, wonderful looking cookie sheet, and it stays that way because I put parchment paper liner on it. I'm going to put the baking cup on there and use the parchment paper liner because I like cleanup to be as easy as is possible. So now, I was hoping that would just drop out, but no, since I packed it. So that's what 2/3 of a cup of cookie dough looks like in the baking cup. Now I'm going to squash this out. Now it'll probably do a pretty good job of melting the butter and softening out and filling this as it cooks, but I want to make sure that my cookie fills the baking cup. Alright, now I'm going to get a helper for our next segment on decorating the top of these cookies. Hi, this is Chef Fox back with Little Chefy McChef Pants. He is normally our editor, but has decided to step in the role of chef for the next section. And I will continue to do voiceover, which is, of course, the final goal of all chefs, is to have a cooking show where they just get to do a voiceover and have someone else do the work. So here's budding superstar Little Chefy McChef Pants. So he's going to decorate the top of one of the cookies with it's 10 chunks of chocolate. Now he can put on the design any way he wants, random, or put a letter for the initial of the person who's going to get it. All kinds of options. Now this recipe has made 10 cookies and half of the package of chocolate chips ended up being 99 chunks. So we're going to get 10 on each, except for one of them will only get 9. So we're going to decorate the top of the rest of those and get them in the oven. So now we've got these lovely cookies ready to go in the oven. Like I said, it's going to be 350 for 15 to 17 minutes. Regular size cookies wouldn't go anywhere near that long. These are going to be in until just the edges are starting to look a little brown. Everybody loves a soft, warm cookie. Putting these in, centering it. Set the timer for 15 minutes, and at that point we'll check and see how they're doing. Timer 15 minutes, so we'll give that a look. Okay, the chocolate is looking soft, but it's not starting to brown around the edges. I don't want to overcook them, but I think I'm going to go to 17 minutes. Set this again. So at 17 minutes it didn't look quite done yet because ovens all do vary a little bit on how fast they cook things. And with this supersized cookie sheet I've got here, it probably didn't get quite the airflow as using a smaller cookie sheet would have given us. Also, if you have a convection oven, that's going to obviously change the outcome and the length of time it takes to cook. Now most of you will probably have oven mitts at home you use to take things out of the oven. In a restaurant situation, usually not so many oven mitts around. A dry towel is safe. A wet towel will burn you. The hot metal contacting a wet towel will create steam and you'll get a terrifyingly ouchy steam burn. Now where to put the cookie sheet when I'm done? Right up there is the safest. That is intended to hold hot objects. Those look great, but as thick as they are, I know that it's going to be super, super hot in the middle, but you see we've just got a little bit of browning around the edges, but it's still going to be a soft cookie when we're done. These cookies, the recipe was available somewhere in particular.com. These cookies taste similar to, but are legally distinct from Jack Jack's Cookie Num Nums available at Disney parks. And these cookies are dun, 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 delish.
So delish.
Mm-hmm. Go Hawks. Cookies are mine.
No, it's mine. It's mine. It's mine.
No, don't spill your milk.